Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Mast Cell 360 Facebook and YouTube live show. We're delighted to have you with us today. I'm Christina Shear, one of the team members here at MC360, and we are delighted to have one of our very own practitioners joining us today. Kimberley Quirk will be with us in just a moment, but as always, I love to share with you just kind of some of the fun overarching details because we are going to have a live Q&A today on a very important topic, histamine. And I definitely want to encourage you to stay until the very end because we've got a really awesome freebie for you that you guys have been asking for quite a while now. So first off, let me hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? Be sure to put it in the chat so we can say hi to you properly. And secondarily, if you are currently struggling with histamine issues, why don't you go ahead and throw a thumbs up in the chat or some sort of a smile emoji. Just let us know that we are here for you and we are excited to get you a resource that's going to help you navigate your histamine intolerance. All right. So as a quick reminder, this presentation is for informational and educational purposes. It's not meant to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent illnesses. Be sure to discuss any health recommendations with your healthcare provider. Also, some links that we do mention are affiliate links, and that means that MC360 actually makes a small commission from them if you purchase through the link, but that is why we only recommend products that we love and personally use here at the Mast Cell 360 virtual practice, where we serve our customers, clients, and our community right here in the United States. We also want you to know that our affiliate links never cost anything extra, and all of those commissions go right back into being able to serve and support you with our newsletter, our website, and ongoing research so you continue your healing journey of healing from whether it be histamine intolerance, mast cell activation syndrome, mold toxicity, whatever it is you might be navigating right now. We're here to support you with those free tips, recipes, information, and so much more. As I mentioned, we are doing a live Q&A today. It's not at the end. It's actually going to start here in just a moment. We've gotten so many questions already submitted through social media, through our Facebook account, as well as our Instagram account. And Cam, if you'll drop in our chat box how to follow us at Instagram, that would be awesome for those of you that aren't already following us over there. We're going to be sharing these questions. But if you've got any additional questions you'd like to have Kimberley answer live, now's the time to ask. If it's specific to histamine, let's go ahead and put those in the chat. And you only have to submit that question once. I'm going to go ahead and mark that with a star on our side of things. And as we get in a chance to, we'll go ahead and answer those live. So without further ado, I am going to bring our incredible guest speaker up to the stage. And as I mentioned, it's Kimberley Quirk from Mast Cell 360. Delighted to have you with us today.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Christina.
Absolutely. My pleasure. My pleasure. All right. And it looks like we might be having a little issue with our Facebook connecting today. So, Kimberley, what I'm going to do is actually have you kind of just start off by answering a couple questions. And I'm going to go see if I can get our Facebook community to join us live. And I know that histamine is a topic that you know plenty about, and you have served our community with it. So why don't you just start us off by just sharing a little bit about your role here at Mast Cell 360 and your story. And then that way you can jump into answering this next question right here, which is an important one. How do I know if histamines are what is causing my issue?
Okay. So just to give you guys a little bit of background, if you don't know my story, I'm the Mast Cell Coach, Functional Mast Cell Coach at Mast Cell 360. But I also struggle with mast cell and histamine intolerance and a few other things as well. And had worked with Mast Cell 360 since 2019 myself, working through this. So I've experienced a lot of kind of what we go through with histamine issues and mast cell issues. And certainly have been working with a lot of people, about 200 people now in the past 2 years, just really trying to help people move past this, right? Because our mast cells give off histamine along with a lot of other mediators. So how can we kind of move ourselves forward? So the first question, how do I know if histamines are what is causing my issue? basically really look at your symptoms. So those symptoms can look different in everybody. Some people have more skin issues. For me, I was somebody who was covered with hives every day for 3 years. So histamine shows up in the form of hives for me. It might look like for some others GI issues. Usually can be a histamine overload, can be look like instant diarrhea after you've had way too much histamine. It might look at in the neurosystem might look more like brain fog and issues like that. And then one big thing is it really does disturb our sleep. So if you have too high histamine at night, that's one issue. But also, if you're typically waking up every night, in that 2 to 4 a.m. range, that's when the body does a histamine dump. So that's sort of another red flag that histamines might be an issue for you. And why are histamines an issue for you? There could be several reasons, right? So the one issue is that you might have a higher histamine diet and need to really take a look at that. You may be experiencing things environmentally, and that's what it was for me. Like no matter what I did to my diet at the beginning, I could not tell a difference. Even going low histamine and low oxalate and all these things, what made a difference for me was getting out of mold, because that mold exposure was making my body, like the immune system, just really overreact to things. So it was really producing a lot of histamine. And then the third thing that happens is sometimes we have a hard time detoxing the histamine. So our gut can get trashed with mold and be colonized by mold and may not produce enough of those brush border enzymes like DAO that help us break down the histamine. So that's the third piece to it. Not everybody we work with has histamine intolerance, but generally it's those who are having a lot of those allergy type responses, those over inflammation type responses that usually are the ones that have that histamine intolerance piece.
And I know that that's something that we've had that conversation more than a few times. I was just joking with our coworkers a minute ago that I feel like I'm the poster child for histamine issues over here. So I'm always learning.
You stole my title then. I thought I was.
We're all learning. See, I just need to become the poster child for healing now and feeling better. That's the goal. That's the next step. Well, I know we've got quite a few questions, and I know that our community loves to ask other ones. I've seen a couple come in as well. So let's fly through these today, Kimberly. Let's get as much information out there as possible. I really want to help our community in their healing journey. So would you share with us, how does histamine actually affect your bladder? It's a great question.
Yeah, I mean, histamine overload, your body is kind of like, oh, whoa, there's too much histamine, is kind of trying to get it out. So usually it can be that sort of overreactive bladder needing to go too often. Can also be oxalates, so just keep that in mind. And they can go hand in hand, histamines and oxalates. They did for me. So paying attention if your bladder, you feel like you emptied, but it still needs to go again. That can be sort of your body trying to get rid of that histamine and get it out. For me, it looked like at first I kept making the doctor check my glucose levels, because for me it felt like a diabetic kind of thing, and it wasn't. It was that histamine, starting that histamine intolerance piece. Yeah.
That's great. That's great context. And so, especially since we have, more than, I think 80% of our community is actually women. And so hormonal questions come up a lot. So would you share a little bit more about how histamine is actually tied to the topic of hormonal changes and how it impacts us just in a general component from a menstrual cycles perspective?
So yeah, when we cycle and we have those hormonal shifts, right, that can be a trigger of the mast cells, when the mast cells can release a lot more histamine and cause us to have histamine overload and a lot more mast cell flares around certain times of the month where things might change, especially going into the second half of your cycle. That estrogen drop can really affect a lot of people and kind of cause like a little bit of extra histamine and stress on the body. And the body's kind of like, what's going on with the shift, right?
Right.
And mold itself, I mean, is a hormone disruptor. So it throws that off. Our hormones should be kind of like, I always say, our hormones should be more like a symphony. And sometimes, for me, I used to joke that it felt like a heavy metal band that was like so out of tune. Like it just, things were not signaling right.
Yeah.
That's
your
so
body,
good. There's some things that are off. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious, and if y'all want to head over into the chat and share, I'd love to hear a little bit more about have you ever seen a parallel between histamine and hormonal changes? Like Kimberly mentioned, kind of on the second half of your cycle, have you seen an impact or a difference? I know for me, that was actually one of those kind of symptoms that I was seeing that I think I gaslit myself for quite a while and felt like why is it that I'm suddenly seeing I'm reacting on Mondays and not Tuesdays and vice versa, and seeing those like hormonal changes along with the hives picking up and different things. And I started to do a journal and start charting my symptoms, and I was like, it happens right in this 10-day window of time. And that was a game changer for me to start to understand that and almost provide preventative self-care and grace for that time every month.
Yeah, I remember just sort of planning in that time, kind of like, okay, I need to pre-medicate a little bit, or or not plan trips around that time, or add extra stressors, and give yourself a lot of grace, more rest, all those kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a good friend of mine who actually specializes in working with like the full focus planner and helping kind of coach people through creating like healthy rhythms in their lifestyle. And one of the challenges I've been having is it's like, how can I have an ideal work week when every week is so different as a woman, just in general? But then you have different ebbs and flows related to hormones and estrogen and cortisol and histamine and food allergy responses. I mean, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir with our community here today, but one of the things that she just helped me have an aha with was to look at what does an A week look like for me, where I'm feeling really, really great, a B week, which is maybe not at full capacity. And then what does it look like to really be in that like kind of flare week? And what are those supportive measures that I needed to build into my calendar, the margin, or the healthy dietary planning, or the supplemental support, or even like emotional support like friends and family. And that was a game changer for me to just really start to wrap my mind around permission for me not to expect every week to be an A week, and be okay with, hey, I may not be 100% this week, versus feeling let down when a day wasn't great.
Yes. Yeah. Kind of rolling with the flow a little bit more, right?
Yeah, way more, which is really hard as a planner. Like,
yes.
When you're trying to do the best you can. And I know I've heard people before be like, oh, you have such great high energy. And I wish you guys could know behind the scenes what's required of me to even come here and show up with a smile on my face and be happy and be a joyful presence, because it requires a lot from me. And it's not something I always have capacity for, but I make the space and time and energy to show up and serve in the same way like Beth has for so many years for this community. I want to be here. And I know you do the same thing, Kimberly. You show up big every single time. We appreciate you for that. Well, let's jump into this next question. This is more of a kind of a technical question, but I think it's a good one. Can you have histamine issues or even like MCAS if your IgE lab numbers are coming back normal?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm probably the poster child for that. Like, they looked for all the allergens and all the things that would trigger, and absolutely, your IgE all your labs can look really normal. They might not just catch them at the time that you're in a flare. They could be, other mediators that they test. It might just, you might be on meds, or you might not be at the time that it's, flaring. So,
yep. I know we tried to catch it in my own blood work recently, and I was like, we missed it. But we knew, thankfully, I had a practitioner that was understanding of this process. So she was like, it's okay that this came back as normal. We're going to keep watching. We'll keep trying. We don't want you to be in a flare, but if you're in the flare next time, like, this is why it's so important we do this.
Yeah, if you can get a practitioner who can do a standing lab, that's like available through the system, and then like if you had to go to the ER, like to run that lab, that's something that I haven't got a practitioner that was able to do that, or willing to do that. But that's sometimes. And the other thing is, even if you do, like, this isn't an IgE test, but if you're looking for mast cell mediators, like a 24-hour urine, those, if they don't chill it and do it right away, those mediators can be gone, and that test is
gone.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
And that's a good reminder. And when we're in this whole process, that just because the test was run doesn't mean that it is the answer if it's normal, right? Like it just is a result, which is good to be mindful of. So let's talk about like if someone actually knows they're dealing with histamine and they are looking to kind of maybe not detox it per se in a formal dynamic, but they're like, how do I just start to get the histamine out of my body, flush it out of the body? And like, how does that happen? Is that through our sweat? Is it, through release of our bladder? Like how is it getting out? That's the $1 million question, other than the hives that show up on my skin, right?
Yeah, I mean, right. It can come out in many ways, right? That bladder reactivity, it's coming out that way.
Yeah.
The GI reactivity, the diarrhea, it's coming out that way. The skin reactivity, right? It's kind of coming out that way. So how long does it take? That is really individual, right? So it depends on how much histamine load you have, whether you've reduced that load, whether through diet or environment, and how well you're detoxing it. Like how well, are you on DAO, and have you taken any meds to kind of reduce that histamine at all? So it's really, really depends on the person.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good reminder. I know throughout this month, since we're going to be covering the topic of histamines, like we're going to bring Stephen Wright back on, who we love over at Healthy Gut, and he's going to share some of those like supplements that do help if you're looking for some of those, and even a DAO product that we're just loving behind the scenes that we're excited to share too. So stay tuned. The next 2 weeks, we're going to have some fun stuff. And so let's talk about, I know you mentioned mold before. That's a big part of your story and Beth's story as well. Let's talk about like, what does it look like to actually detox mold if you're dealing with histamines and or MCAS right now? Is it even possible in
So yeah, I remember asking this question myself, like, how can I detox if I'm this reactive? And so the answer is that when you're that reactive, you're not detoxing at that point. It's all about getting to, and we've talked before about that stabilization piece where we're taking away the triggers and getting those mast cell calm. So we're not, getting a lot more histamine out and a lot more mediators out that are causing the flares. So how can we kind of calm things down? Also need to be having a bowel movement every day to be able to detox mold. You need to really be, de-stressed in a lot of ways, have that nervous system calm, which can keep that mast cell. Yeah. Everything sort of needs to be a little bit more calmed down, that your body is able to detox mold and then be able to gently. So, when we detox mold, we are looking at single ingredient binders, one at a time, sprinkle at a time, versus some other practitioners who might be like, here, just take this prescription binder or this other binder, which might be too much for somebody with mast cell.
Right. Exactly. We're going slow is fast in this regard. So this definitely applies in regards to that. It's a good question. I'm loving all these questions today. These are like so specific. And this is another one that I was like, it's funny, as I was preparing these, I was asking our team and going like, is this really something? Because I struggle with this too. So could high histamine levels actually be connected to on and off inner knee pain? And I've had a couple knee surgeries, but let me tell you, that's like something I see, and it's specific around certain cycles. So
histamine is going to increase your inflammation, right? So that's what it does, right? So it increases inflammation in that area. So I do see that histamine can kind of go to an area that we've had an issue before, like recurring, like, I would get hives in certain places every time. So yeah, absolutely. It can increase that inflammation, but I want to add that knee pain can also be tied to oxalates.
That's a good point. Okay. I know that's something that one of these days we're going to fully talk about oxalates on here too. I know it's a tricky topic, but definitely something that I'm hearing come up more and more. And I know you mentioned this already a little bit, but I think this is such a big one, and I'd love to hear from our community. Do you wake up between 3 and 4 a.m.? Like, throw a hand up in the chat. Is this something you've ever experienced before? And is that related to histamine? Or could it maybe be more of like a cortisol issue or anxiety, just general anxiety going on in their life?
So generally when I hear somebody's waking up around 3 to 4 a.m. every night, to me, that usually signals histamine, because that's when the body does a histamine dump. So it's just sort of a histamine overload. It sort of wakes up the body. So that was me every night at 3:13 a.m. I remember setting the clock, and every night religiously. It was like that. It's not like that anymore, which is a wonderful thing. So that's when you start looking at how can I reduce my histamine load, either through diet, or does it need to be environmental as well? And what are things we can do to help your body break down the histamine, like a DAO or something like that.
That's good. Well, we can see Summer, Anita, and Julia all shared with us. Yeah. They're waking up at 3 or 4 a.m. So, ladies, I hope Kimberly's answer has been a help to you for sure. All right, let's go to our next question here. And I know this has been like a buzzword in our community lately. The carnivore diet feels like it's trending in the industry again. And I'm just curious, is that something that is a good idea for our MCAS community and those suffering with histamine intolerance issues to consider for right now for their healing journey?
We don't usually prescribe that, or not prescribe, but recommend that, just because, two reasons, right? So one reason is your meat can be a higher histamine thing. So it really depends on how you're sourcing your proteins, because those tend to be some of the highest histamine things. So, you could be eating low histamine meat and do that. But the other thing that I worry about is that you may have a hidden oxalate issue, and it might not show up right away. But I have seen clients like 3 to 4 months in start a histamine or start an oxalate dump of their body and cause a huge flare. Wow. So I feel like it's a bit of an extreme thing for mast cell, just because of some of the risks. Can you be protein and meat heavy? Yes, absolutely. Choosing the right low histamine sources. But I also think you can add some other things, and as well, kind of looking at your full picture, what's going on, whether you have oxalate and salicylate issues. But I would just caution against it because it's such a big change of also your microbiome and everything else. Yeah,
that's good. That's good feedback.
And we don't do well with big shifts, right? Usually something like that. That's kind of an extreme diet.
Exactly. That's so true. Well, let's answer a couple questions related that have come in live. I'd love to actually tackle this one. I think it's a good one for some of our newbies. So Kathy, welcome to our community. And she actually is curious, and I think some of those that have maybe taken our recent mystery symptoms quiz, they might have come to us through that, and they're still trying to get a diagnosis and figure out what's going on. So actually, how do you know if you have MCAS?
So how do you know? So usually you're someone who has symptoms in more than one major system of your body. So, and it can look different in every person. So for me, I had a lot of neuro issues, like with POTS and things like that. But I also had a lot of skin issues with hives. There's some people who maybe have more GI and skin, or GI and neuro, or GI and cardiovascular. So it's usually systemic in terms of that you have more than, a set of symptoms in more than one area of your body. That's kind of like to be a red flag. If you're someone who you've known has been mold exposed and has a lot of sensitivities, and a lot of things you've done have not helped, it's worth looking at mast cell activation. Yeah.
That's great. And I like this question that came in from Brenda. She's actually wondering if mast cell can be related to sensitivities, there we go, to fragrances and chemicals. And Brenda, I want to say that was a question I asked early on that I didn't realize had an bigger impact on my life than I had realized at the time.
So yeah, it absolutely can. It's very common. It's usually tied to that nervous system piece. Where our body is a little bit hypervigilant because it's trying to reduce the amount of toxins that we're taking in. So we tend to, our sense of smell gets heightened, our sense of hearing can get heightened. All those, we become noise sensitive and sound sensitive and smell sensitive to everything. That's sort of that nervous system getting really protective of us. So yeah, it can be tied to that for sure.
That's good. Well, keeping with that trend of all things MCAS, Anita asked this question as well about, MCAS. How does she know if it's something that she has? And as a quick reminder, Anita, we, again, always recommend you see your practitioner. So this is just our general recommendations and thoughts, since you're not one of our current clients. But she was actually curious. She's seeing like her histamine levels are normal and she's not responding to MCAS stabilizer. So have you seen anything like that in the clinic before and working with other people?
Yeah. Usually tryptase is used more to look for mastocytosis than mast cell activation. My
That's
histamine came back actually depressed, but it was because I was on antihistamines, right, at the time. So it's going to come back low. So yeah, we don't usually rely on those markers. And I also like to tell people you don't have to have a diagnosis to get better. What we're looking for is no diagnosis, and you might need the diagnosis if you need some of the meds and things like that to help. But my goal was to get away from, even I was kind of like what they might see as subclinical because I wasn't testing for it, but I was trying to get away from it, and I wouldn't test positive now, even if they had better tests. So
absolutely. Oh, I love this. Julia, thank you for sharing what is the truth for many of us. Non-fragrance only. Fragrance is a big killer for her. And if you're ever looking for recommendations of fragrance-free products or product lines, you can always send us a message to our just general support inbox. We have plenty that Beth and the team have gone through and tested that they love, from body lotions to oils, like all kinds of different things that are really helpful. And I know we have this like insane document that we use as a team that is perpetually keeping up with the products and services that are helpful for our community, to say the least.
And Julia, that's your body really trying to protect you, because that fragrance, and excuse my French, it's code for chemical shitstorm. Basically, that's what that means, because they don't have to list the ingredients then. So there are a lot of chemicals that are harmful that the body is trying to protect you, is what it comes down to. So being really careful about that.
What's the the ingredients? When I look on my my packaging of my food list and it says natural flavors, I run as far away from natural flavors as possible. I'm like, how natural can it be if it's not listed as a natural ingredient?
They hide a lot of things under fragrance or natural flavors.
It's very interesting, especially I've lived abroad before, and to see ingredients lists and requirements in other communities and parts of the world, like especially Europe, what has to be listed in like the cosmetics industry is really different in comparison to our regulations here. But I digress. We won't go down that road. So Summer asked a really good question. And Cam, if you can share a link to a resource for us, that would be great. She'd like to know, maybe she's dealing with her nervous system is a little haywire right now. How can she help calm the nervous system?
So that's a big piece. We will say that mast cell is at least 50% nervous system dysregulation. For some people, it's 90%. So how can we kind of calm that? I mean, definitely getting out of mold calms it. But also post mold, sometimes the nervous system stays dysregulated. So how can we kind of calm that? I mean, my favorite tool for it is Primal Trust is a great place for people to really get to know your nervous system and get some tools. And I know we've done some Facebook Lives with the founder of that before. So
absolutely. Primal Trust is a great one. I am like a huge fan of New Calm. I joke that I take New Calm naps.
New Calm is amazing. Yep.
I'm just shy of my 100th session right now. So I have been using it diligently to help me. And I can tell you, like in my conversations with my own counselor and my family and friends, they can tell a measurable difference in my nervous system and how I'm reacting, or better yet, not reacting to things, which is really, really great. And I'm seeing that difference in my gut health, but also in, even something, it might sound really simple, Summer, but like when the dog would bark at the house, I would be highly reactive and highly stirred. And now it's like the dogs can have a moment and I'm like, and
Yeah,
it's been
that's
really,
that sound sensitivity, right? Bringing that back down. And
that's been,
in clinic,
that's been great.
we have a whole list of things, but primal trust is just a great place to start if you haven't done it, just because they teach you a lot about your nervous system and really add some tools on for vagal and limbic.
Yeah, which is so key. Absolutely. And if you are looking to go deep and learn the science, but also like hear directly from Beth and our team about what that process looks like, there's kind of two different ways that we can serve and support you. The first one being you are more than welcome to take a look at our nervous system reboot course. And we are we're not running a promotion on it right now, but that's okay. And you can go ahead and take a look at it. And Cam will post a link to that offer, and you can see if that's something that works for you, that you think would be ideal to get started in the process. It's $249 right now to enroll, and we'll go ahead and teach you so much about the nervous system. Again, that's been a game-changing resource for me. And as Kimberly mentioned, that's 50% of the work. So you're going to keep coming back to it over and over and over again.
And I will say, as a client, that was the first course I took. It just helped me understand from a mast cell perspective the different parts that we look at in the nervous system, the limbic, but also the vagal, and then breaking the vagal into two parts, the signaling and the structural. And I'll tell you, a lot of the other programs don't touch on that structural piece, which can be a missing piece for a lot of people. So that is worth looking at. Also, I just really love that quiz for how dysregulated is your nervous system, and really getting that score back and be like, oh yeah, I have some work to do here.
Absolutely. Cam, if you could post the link to the Haywire mast cell quiz, which we also call it our mystery symptoms quiz. We'll put that in there. It's a free quiz that you guys can take, and it does, just PS, have a special offer. So if you are thinking about the nervous system course, that's a way to get it without just going to the main page. You can also email us, and we like to be generous behind the scenes when we can be, to support y'all, because we know budgets are tight this time of year, and we want you to feel good and be healthy where we can. Like, we'll do what we can. And the other way that we can support you, and Summer asked this question, how do we become a client? And so I'm going to actually post the link here to our application, so you can fill that out online. And Kimberly, will you share a little bit more about the types of clients that we're currently working with at our virtual clinic?
Yeah, I mean, we work with people all types. Really, some people are really sick. It might be down to a limited number of foods and be really super reactive and really need to go slow. And then there's others we've worked with who maybe worked with another practitioner and maybe got far, but not as far as they need to. They had a couple missing pieces. So that, having us on board kind of helped find those blocks for them to help move them forward, and finish up that detox or that colonization piece that might have been missed, or a structural piece or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're thinking that you might want to work with Alex or Kimberly at our clinic, there are two incredible practitioners that are available to work with our team, and they collaboratively work together, which is really amazing. So be sure to send us a message or fill out the application, and we can get you to that next step if that's something you're thinking about, Summer. Oh, I see you said thank you. So
I will add, we're very much a multi-practitioner model where people usually see both of us, depending where they are in their journey. But yeah, they're kind of seeing me 1 month and maybe Alex the next month. And it's great to have more than one practitioner with eyes on your case, because we're looking at it from very different angles and backgrounds and experience with those. So
absolutely. I've heard the clinic team meetings are pretty incredible, like the thought process that comes along it. So you guys are the dream team over there. And I'm like, one day, please let me be a guinea pig. Help me with all the things.
Come on through, Christina. Come on through.
I know, right? Well, I've seen this question pop up a couple times, so I do want to bring this back in, and we'll probably finish up here with like maybe one or two more questions before we land the plane for today and get you access to that free histamine resource that I mentioned at the beginning of our live. But I'd love to know, Kimberly, is there a connection between histamine and, I'm hopefully going to say this right, lipodema?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, right. All right, good.
And there is, and there's a connection, I will say, to lymphedema as well, which we were just talking about, right? So the lipodema is basically your body's benign way to put toxins in a safe packet. If you've ever had an older dog, you might know those lumps that are benign that are on your dog. That's kind of what lipodema does. I actually have had a little bit on my own body where things have shown up. Always good to get it checked out with your doctor to be sure it's something benign, right? But that's what our body does. It's trying to protect us from toxins that are detoxing, and might encase it in a little fatty cyst kind of thing. And then lymphedema, I should add, right, where we're trying to detox a lot of things and detox mold usually with mast cell. So that lymph system can get backed up, and we can have issues there as well as if things aren't moving or detoxing as well, because your lymph system is your detox system.
Thank you for that. That's so good. I wanted to bring this up just so y'all could see it. If you want to take that mystery symptoms quiz or the Haywire Mast Cell quiz, just go to mastcell360.com/mystery-quiz. And then Cam also posted it in the chat on Facebook as well as YouTube. So regardless of what platform you're watching live or on the replay, we want to encourage you to go ahead and go through that, take that and see where you score. There's 4 different types of results that you get from mild to severely haywire mast cells. And then there is an opportunity to get a special offer on the nervous system course, which, like I said, is full price right now. So this is the only way to get that. So you can do that, and it's free to use. It's a great resource, and it definitely helps you understand where you're really at in the process right now, right? I know it does for me. Well, let's go ahead and find a final question here. And I think this is a good one for us to land the plane with. This is from Kelly. And Kelly actually asked, what labs reflect high histamine?
So, I mean, they can test for histamine in the blood. If you're in a flare at that time and not on antihistamines, because they actually like, oh, you're fine because yours is actually really low. And it's because I was on antihistamines at the time. So you can test for histamine. It's usually a symptoms kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yep, and kind of a little bit of, playing with different things. Like, if I go on a low histamine diet, do my symptoms improve? It doesn't mean it's not a histamine, right? For me, I was low histamine and I still was covered in hives, and because it was environmental for me. But when I did get out of mold, all my symptoms did decrease. So I would look more at symptoms than worry about labs.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for that. Kelly, I hope that helps answer your questions. And I know we had a couple more come in. Be sure to continue to engage with us on social. We'll answer as many of them as possible. We've got a ton of resources we're going to be sending out this month on different histamine blog resources, and even past shows that Beth and the team have done. So we want to make all of that content available to you. So again, if you have questions, comment, and Cam and Jamie and Kimberly and I will be sure to reply and engage with you there. But without further ado, I would love to get to my favorite part, which is showing you guys a resource that can make a huge difference. So let me go ahead and bring this on up. And so remove that here. I'm trying to remove all the things. You gotta love it when we've got all the things open. Multitasking, running a live at the same time as helping co-host is more of a process than I think most of us even know. But we have a brand new resource for you guys, and it is our printable low histamine food list. Can I get a yay and a high five and some thumbs up and a smiley face in the comments if this is something that you want? We are excited to get it to you. You have been asking for this literally, I think, since I've got here, and it's almost been a year now I've been a part of this team, but I've been hearing about this for a while now. And we've always had it available kind of in our blogs and available as kind of like a generalized Word document, but we wanted to make sure that this is something that you can easily print off and take with you to the grocery store. And along with it, sharing a list of like the vegetables, the fruits, the greens, the grains, the herbs, the oils, the nuts, the seeds, milk, meat, all those different things. We've got some tips for you. We identify what are like the higher histamine ones, and just some general resources for you. So I love, look at this. Julie is saying like, yay, finally. Paula's excited too. So this is what we've got for you today. And the best part is it is free to download. So Cam is going to post the link for you as well, but you can go to mastcell360.com/download-histamine. You're going to enter your first name and your email address. We'll get you subscribed to our newsletter, and then it'll take you to the thank you page where you'll be able to download that PDF and have it, use it, share it with a friend, share it with your family, have it printed out, put it on your refrigerator. I know that's what I do with mine. And that way I've got that consistent reminder of these are foods that are a challenge for me. And these are foods that I want to maybe switch out and try. Kimberly, I don't know if there's anything in addition you'd like to share specific to this topic as well, but I'm just so excited to share.
So I know what it's like, when I first discovered histamine issues, I thought I was eating so healthy, right? Like, because I was, kombucha and kimchi and all the things, right? But they're all high histamine, and a lot of pineapple and coconut aminos and all these things that are ferments. And I was like, why do I still have these symptoms, right? And I'll tell you, when I first got that, I was just so frustrated. I felt like I wanted to flip my, table, like, forget this. This is so hard. But I'll tell you, you can eat really well off the low histamine diet. It does take a little getting used to, because it's not like you can go to a restaurant and say, I need to eat low histamine, like you can say gluten-free or something.
Right.
So it is a lot of kind of learning what are the options. And the thing is, it's a lot of trade-offs too, right? You might not be able to eat pineapple, but you can eat mango. You might not be able to eat kombucha, but you could have something different that's low histamine. So yeah, it's just a lot of learning to make some swaps that don't have to be super, super hard. And it is just sort of a learning process.
Absolutely. Well, I know it has been a game changer for me. We look forward to hearing how it's a game changer for each of you. And this is, again, just like we say at the beginning of every show, the one of the beautiful things of being able to have kind of these affiliates and different recommendations that we have is we're able to give back to this community. That is like our heart. And so we're thrilled to have this out there. We'll have more to come, but we want to make sure that you guys get this first before we put it on social media anywhere. It is just available for you within our Facebook Live community and our YouTube Live community. So enjoy. Let us know how it goes. Send us those success stories. And if you've got any questions along the way, we are here to support you in that effort. So, Kimberly, any final thoughts for those that are on the low histamine food journey as we kind of close out this topic of histamine as a Q&A today?
Yeah, keep going and try, listen to your body. And I'll tell you, this list is one of the better lists that is out there. Beth did a lot of research using both. I saw somebody mention the Siggy list, as well as some of the other lists, and then with client experience and such too. So I feel like there's a lot of conflicting information out there, and I feel like this list is kind of like a really great basic list to kind of go from.
It is. It absolutely is. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. As a quick reminder, next week we will have Stephen Wright back with us again. He will be joining us to talk about the topic of histamine, as well as a really cool supplement that is going to support your histamine process. I know that came up today. So we will be back here Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern time. Come and join us. Ask those histamine questions, especially related to MCAS and supplements. Stephen's going to be here and he'll answer them, to say the least. So thank you, Kimberly. We appreciate you, and everyone be well. Have a great day. Bye.
Have a great week. Bye, everybody.